That was perfect.
That was 10 out of 10 would Christmas again.
Oh, man. Perfect 10 out of 14. Welcome to
Welcome.
Rotator.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride. Rotator is the way. Hey! There we go.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, we're probably going to sing a lot of Christmas. It's our first ever holiday special.
Is it? When did we start this thing? February of
Yeah,
last
we
year?
started it after Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
It feels like it was 5 years ago. I feel like this has been
It really does.
a part-time job I've been wanting to quit for about a decade.
I've loved it. I've hated it. I've loved it again.
And now I'm here.
And now I just think I'm okay with it.
'Tis the season.
But people keep listening, so we feel, we feel a duty to inform the masses.
We on our Instagram page, we have a lot of fa-la-la-la-lallowers to make happy. That was a little joke for you.
You know, that's right.
Yep.
Anyways.
Hair on my microphone.
Oh, sorry about that.
Here's what we're going to do. Kogan, explain it.
Okay. So this is our holiday special, and we are talking about holiday gifts.
Gearsmas.
Gearsmas, specifically from our childhood and from your childhood. And I think, one thing I love about taking this stroll down memory lane is it really pulls you back into that 13-year-old version of yourself. And we're sitting in a room with like all of these guitars and these amps and pedals, all of this stuff, and really taking it back to like when you fell in love with guitar or whatever. If you're not a guitar player, bass. Well, bass players are basically guitar players who can't play guitar.
Heyo.
Heyo. But maybe I'll cut that out. Keyboard, whatever. When you fell in love with music, playing music, and how innocent it was, and you didn't know anything. You just knew that this was the thing that brought you joy, and so you wanted to keep doing it over and over and over again.
Right.
And you would get that catalog in the mail. For me, it was
Musician's Friend, dude. Because we don't have Sam Ash here.
No, we don't.
And later I started getting Sweetwater.
I do get Sweetwater Deluxe still, yeah.
It was a while. The first thing I got was Musician's Friend. But so you mentioned on something, we're at Kogan's house, and I look around and I see Gibson guitars, Fender amps, AC30, there's a Blues Breaker here somewhere. All the key players are represented, but when you're 14, 15, 16 years old, it's just like, how is this possible? How could I ever acquire blank? And there was also the foolishness of, and if only I did acquire blank.
Oh, if only I had this.
Then I would sound good, know?
Yeah.
Then the sound in my head would be in my fingers. We found out years later that the sound in your fingers would be what is your sound is, kind of period.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
yeah. So I look around sometimes and I think to myself, what a wonderful world I'm in,
Oh, and I think this is so. I feel like this episode is going to be twofold. Let's talk about our dream gear from when we were kids.
Yeah,
and we talked about this a little bit in the Lost
Lore and Legends.
Lost Lore and Legends
our
episode.
most popular episode.
Yeah, which was not of us playing guitar.
Nope.
Which I get, actually.
I see your point.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think, we talked in that episode a lot about gear that we wish we still had. But this, I think, is going to be more about gear that we always wanted when we were kids. And we can also dive into a little bit of first real pieces of gear,
right?
Where we were like, okay, I'm like a legit guitar player now because I have X.
So to add on to something that you said earlier about that childhood wonder, what's interesting about musicians when they start playing, early enough in life, when there's still a little bit of that magic of Christmas is, it is
I
a
hope Santa knows Leo Fender.
Oh yeah, it's a thing that in your adulthood you still appreciate, right? Like I don't really think as much now about certain gifts I got as a kid and how they affect my life today. But as a musician,
Yeah.
I think about the gifts I got that radically altered my thinking, feeling about gear, my trajectory. And I think maybe a good example that I can start with.
Oh, here we go. Let's start it off.
I may have mentioned this on the Lost Lore and Legends, but I've been playing guitar for about September to October, November to December, 3 months. Mm-hmm. And I had an old Conn brand acoustic that was my dad's.
Yeah. CONN.
CONN plus fancy logo. And what I wanted to be was a rocker. I wanted to rock and roll. But I also had to play worship music for the children's ministry at our church.
Nice.
Because once you basically learn C, G, C, E minor, and D,
Oh yeah.
and you
have a capo.
You have a capo. I'm trading my sorrows.
You're the best.
Lord, I lift your name on high. It's just all of them. They're all there. But I wanted to rock. So my parents got me what I found out later was actually a downgrade from the guitar I had. It just had, but it had a pickup in it. So it was a Johnson acoustic with a pickup.
Come on.
They went in on this with my guitar teacher at the time, Eugene Brown, one of the most influential people in my entire life, and to whom I have the most to thank. Eugene got me a Digitech RP50. I think I've talked about it, but it was like a multi-effect.
Oh.
And
I
then,
do have something to say about that later.
Yeah. And then I forget who it was. I'm sorry, but I know that none of my family listens to this. But some person else in my family got me a little Gorilla, like 1.6 solid state amp.
Ooh. Which, side note, I will say, I've heard rumors that Josh Homme uses the Gorilla amps for like some of those Queens of the Stone Age records.
They get pretty dirty.
It's just filth.
Yeah. Disgusting. Moral of the story is I took that Johnson acoustic, I took that Gorilla amp and that Digitech RP50, and I went to Walmart and I got me a classic rock compilation CD from the $5 bin. And all of a sudden it was like to the Google, more than a feeling tabs.
Yes.
And bow down out down out down down out, and I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm rocking out, and like do do dee no nee no nee no dee nee 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 nee, and I'm just like, I'm the next guy. I'm Randy Rhoads reincarnate because I'm playing an acoustic guitar. Gosh, and I was just on I was on the ultimate level. I don't think I could ever be as happy about something as I was about thinking that I was sounding like a rock star.
Well, isn't that always that's always the problem is I sound way better in my head than I actually sound.
Right.
That's so you learned on a Conn acoustic guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was the RP50 was your Christmas? That was like the thing
so,
you needed?
My parents got me the Johnson acoustic with a pickup in it.
Gotcha.
And then my guitar teacher, Eugene, got me the RP50. And it was like a...
Wow.
So
So what's the
got me
deal
a
with your
gift.
guitar teacher? So I teach private lessons. Am I supposed to be getting my kids...
So
presence of amps?
I'll tell you some stuff. So I grew up at First Baptist Church in Marlow. Mm-hmm. That's where we attended. And Eugene Brown was the children's minister. And there for a little bit, he was offering guitar lessons to a few of us who were in high school. So it was my freshman year of high school. And he started to give a few of us lessons. We would kind of take a class. And then later it turned into private lessons. Mm-hmm. And then Eugene's job got kind of more complicated. He ended up having some extra duties, and so he had to release some of his students, but he was the children's minister. So he would take the students that he was teaching and then have those students lead worship for the children's ministry. So, and to do their summer camps and stuff like that. So his students were then basically had like a practicum class on Sundays and Wednesday nights and stuff like that. So,
Gotcha.
and just because he, I guess, believed in me a little bit, and he knew that I wanted to play rock music as well, he was kind of like, this is not going to take the place of a Marshall Stack, but for being 14 years old,
Go for it.
it'll get you pumped. So,
That's awesome.
and I got pumped.
So this is a kind of a side note. I have a student who is 15 and he's a great guitar player. He's been he learned or has been learning on an Epiphone SG
400.
No, it's not even
No?
that. It's like
Ooh.
the lowest. It's like a $50 guitar, and it will not stay in tune. Horrible guitar. And who knows? I mean, it probably just needs to be set up, whatever. But for his birthday, I think it was in October. I can't remember. It was sometime in the fall. He got this 2017 Mexican Strat, and he brings it in, and he's just like,
Dude.
"Oh my gosh, like this thing!" And he starts playing some of the stuff we've been working on, and I was like, "Bro, you're a guitar player. Like that guitar stays in tune, and you sound incredible. Like
There you go.
That's all there is to it."
You're there.
So his mom just texted me a few weeks ago and was asking about. She's like, he really needs a new amp. He's been playing through this. It's an Epiphone amp, and it is about 2 inches thick and like 12 inches tall.
It's a 1x3.
Yeah, it is horrible.
Yeah.
Very lo-fi, if I may. And she's like, can I get him an amp? Like, here's my budget, blah, 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 this sort of stuff. And so it's really been fun to watch him. Like, so that's kind of the thing we're talking about. Like, he doesn't even.
Right.
This kid is so obsessed with guitar that he doesn't know anything.
It
about
doesn't
the
matter
gear.
to him.
He has
Right.
no idea.
Doesn't matter.
He couldn't tell you a Les Paul from an SG, but he loves guitar, and I think he'll probably play the rest of his life, probably. But anyways, no thanks to me.
So, well, no. I think thanks to you, Kogan.
Slowly
I'll
but
say
surely.
that. But I think this is an interesting factoid is when I've done certain, camps or gigs here and there, and we have like a Q&A session where some young people come and ask about my gear. I'm seeing people who are growing up, like 14-year-olds, who their dream gear is like a 1x8 5-watt amp and like a some weird like a Duesenberg and a pedal board with 10 Strymon pedals on it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's cool. So first, it's different. It's so much different than my childhood dream.
Oh, yeah. It's very different.
Completely different. B, it's not like wrong.
It's hard for me to understand because I didn't
It's
grow
hard
up
to
that way.
Right. And that's what I want to keep coming back to is like, it's not wrong, but how are you going to, and it's probably some kind of bias. Like, I think, how can you come to the same conclusions that I came to, which maybe they don't need to come to those same conclusions, but I'm just like, how can you get to from A to B when that's your A,
Yeah. And it's, I'm always wondering. So when I was growing up, it was like dial-up internet. It took forever to load a website. I wasn't shopping for gear. I didn't spend a lot of time. The only time I spent looking at gear was like on the toilet when I was a kid, flipping through Musician's Friend.
The catalog.
And the rest of it was learning songs,
Playing
getting
the
old songbooks.
guitar.
And so I think as long as playing the guitar is your passion, then that's the key.
Yeah.
That is the trick. You'll be a great guitar player one day if that's your passion.
Speaking of Christmas presents,
Oh boy.
which we need to make sure that we get all these out of the way.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I think it was the same year. In 1 year, I got my Strat, which my dad.
Which people have heard on the podcast.
You've heard it many times.
A version of the Strat.
Yeah, there have been some modifications.
It has been upgraded.
Yeah. But I got a Strat and a Reliant K two rights don't make a left, but three do.
Yes.
Or two lefts don't make a right, but three do. Yeah.
Do.
I got the tablature book for that whole album.
Dang. That's awesome.
And I took it up to my laboratory.
AKA
the second story of a home in Marlow built in 1908. The most creaky, noisy house. Like a strong wind came and like you felt like you had the spins. It was bad. Like vertigo had on set. But I learned every song on that record front to back.
Yeah.
Now, that's not necessarily like an iconic guitar record.
A lot of guitar on that record, though.
But and when you look at the notations for it, you're like, this one page has like 2 bars worth of music because there are 10 stacks of guitar parts on it. But my whole thing was, I get to now learn more songs. I get to now play the guitar more.
Yeah.
And this is going to help me play the guitar more. Not even necessarily better, just more.
No, absolutely. And, that was always the thing. I remember my first, real guitar. So I learned to play on this old K acoustic guitar from the 70s that my dad had.
God bless you. That's amazing.
And, the action, the strings were just like an inch away from the fretboard.
Yeah.
It's just a struggle. And he had this old country guitar book from the 70s.
Mel Bay?
Mel Bay, yeah.
Mel Bay is a life changer. I'm going to grant my children. I have these old Mel Bay books that were my grandpa's. Uh-huh. And I'm keeping them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when they're like 10 years old, I'm just going to put them on the shelf and wait for the magic to happen.
So one thing I never understood, side note, Mel Bay books. So the guitar Mel Bay book opens up like a normal book.
Yeah.
And you flip through it. My dad had an electric bass Mel Bay book from the 70s. And it opened up long ways.
Because it's the long guitar.
It made no sense to
Only
me.
explanation.
Like, why does this open up like this? So, anyways, one Christmas, I'd been playing for a while, and I was like, I need an electric guitar. I want an electric guitar so bad. And I got a Squier by Fender Bullet. And that was like
$99.99.
Oh, man. And that thing... did they cost $100? That would blow my mind.
So I remember seeing growing up, the $99.99 was the Squier Bullet, like with a little
with
amp, with a booklet, with picks, with the gig bag. Which it's funny, people call it a gig bag. You've got to in order to get a good gig bag,
it's money.
You're gonna spend more than a low level hard case.
Yeah. And it's this was essentially like a paper sack that had a zipper on it.
Yeah. And a strap.
Yeah. So I got this Squier Bullet and I was just like, oh my gosh, I've arrived. It was blue, white pick guard, faux rosewood neck or whatever it is, like fretboard.
Yeah. Rouse Wild.
Yeah, Rouse Wild.
Rouse Wild. Genuine grade, yeah, Rouse Wild.
And I got it was... Oh, what was it called? It was an M Audio black box is what it was called.
Whoa.
And it was basically like the M Audio version of a pod at the time. Because this would have been...
The pod.
This would have been like 2000.
Yeah.
Probably 2001 maybe. And, it had all these amps and stuff in it.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I still had that thing. And so in my mind, I was just like, oh, dude, I've arrived. Like, it's rock and roll time. I can pull up the sound of a Vox AC30 on this thing, and I'm there.
Yep.
And so that was a very memorable Christmas, and that like propelled me.
Yeah.
You get still to this day, it's all about finding the gear that inspires you to play.
Right.
And when I was 12 years old, like that inspired me to play more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just sat in my room and I played guitar, and I would learn Switchfoot songs.
For
I would learn,
hours
whatever.
a day.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss in that sense of it's almost like the less you the less nuanced you are with tone, the more easily you're satisfied.
No,
and
absolutely.
then you don't like mess with tone, and then you spend your time messing with other parts of the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a good or bad, it's just what it is. So we talked about some things we received. I feel like I've pretty much covered my bases on things I've received for Christmas / holidays.
I agree.
If
As have I.
Okay, if you've covered that base, I feel like we need to go into what did our
All
dreams
I really want
for
for
Christmas,
Christmas, and the only
the thing I need, said I.
I like how we both go to the BGB part.
Yeah, well, so that's our typical job. We're not the front man. If anything,
Never.
If anything, we're just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, and and then we look at the sheet music, and it has that note for like rest, and it's like 36 measures, and just wait. 10, 2, 3, 4, 11, 2, 3, 4, 12, 2, 3, 4, 13, 2, and yep.
Oh, so true. So when I was a kid, I always wanted a Fender Jaguar.
Go on.
It
It was different, right?
Yes, like
It was the forbidden fruit of
it was.
Fender.
I was like, I've never seen something like this. It was that offset body, 2 single coils, short scale neck, like.
Knobs and switches, like what?
Oh my gosh, so many switches on it. I don't know why I wanted that guitar, but I always wanted a 3-tone sunburst with the tortoiseshell pick guard. Like that was the dream for me. I don't know. I still to this day can't figure out why I wanted that guitar.
Was that the one with the single coils or the soap bars?
No, 2 Jazzmaster soap bars. And
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this just had the 2 giant single coils. They were like oversized single coils.
Yes. So if I were to be that, but fast forward it into like freshman year of college, the baritone version.
Oh,
Because in my mind, you take that like richness and clarity of the single coils, and then you drop it by a fourth.
yeah. Oh,
Dude,
that's the sound. Well, I think that's
so
why
good.
So I still have never owned a Jaguar or a Jazzmaster. Well, when I was a kid, I got a Jag Master,
Okay.
which is
Go on.
the Squire version of a Jaguar, but it has 2 humbuckers and it does not have a short scale neck. And which was also a great Christmas gift that I was so psyched about it. It was amazing. But now that I'm older, so I think this is one of the really funny things to think about. So I have 2 examples of this. So the Jaguar when I was a kid, now that I'm older, I do not like short scale guitars, and my hands are too big for that.
Correct.
I can't play them.
Right.
Like it's just too small. And I've gotten to the point as a player where it's like my hands are so big. I want jumbo frets even. I don't even want the small frets. Like I need
so that's like
big everything.
ease of movement of the string.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. I've played some I've played some old Fenders where they started off having small frets, and then through time they get ground down.
Yeah.
And then it's like the only thing that I can do on this guitar is play an open E chord.
Yeah.
And if anything moves, it's just like it's complete garbage trash.
Yeah,
Can't
it's
do
out.
it. Yeah.
So the other thing when I was a kid that I always wanted, and I remember I would flip through Musicians Friend magazines and I would see these Vox AC30s. And I was like, that is the coolest amp I've ever seen. I must have one of these amps. And time goes on. I never got one for Christmas. Obviously, that's like I did not grow up in a household where they could spend, $1,200 or whatever they are on an amp. Not even a guitar, something you plug a guitar into. Which that's a whole nother argument.
No,
What's more
that's a
important,
whole
the
other
guitar or the amp?
story.
So I always wanted a Vox AC30, and now I have a legit 99 British made Vox AC30.
Which of the available AC30s, it far bypasses probably anything that's been made in like 10 years.
Oh, well, almost 20 years now.
And even, I mean, maybe the hand-wired series, but still, it's kind of a...
Yeah,
it's like a case-by-case basis,
that's
maybe.
one of those arguments, Chinese-made AC30s do not sound horrible. Like, they still sound like an AC30, and they still sound good.
Right.
So I'm, I don't want to, like, harp on that, like, oh, well, this is British made, this is blah, 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 whatever. Like, ultimately, it's in the fingers, right? Mm-hmm. But there is something special about the amp, about this amp that was like made in '99, and it's got a tube rectifier,
dude,
and it's top boost.
My gosh,
there's no channel switching, like all of this sort of stuff.
It's one of those amps that needs to be modeled. I mean, it's like
there's something special about it. And that's not to say you can't get a good sound with, a great player can get a good sound with anything.
True.
And, I don't even want to belittle it that much. Like, I've heard people play the hand wires. They sound amazing.
Yeah.
I would buy a hand wired AC15. I think those, the old like TV front, those I think sound incredible.
Dude, yeah.
I love
those. Totally.
So that was a very big, that was a moment in my adult life when I was like, man, I've always wanted an AC30, and I had an opportunity to buy one from one of my closest friends who was moving out of the country, and he couldn't, obviously you can't take an AC30 with you because it's like, I don't know how much it would cost you to fly. It weighs so much.
It's 1 billion pounds Great British to ship.
So he sold it to me for what he bought it for, and it's still, I'll never get that. I mean, that's the one amp that's like, this is sacred.
Time out. That same friend, I'm not going to call him out by name.
John Gorham.
Let's just call this man Jonathan Gorham.
Okay. His given name.
His
Christian name.
His Christian name. But probably a lot of you out there ain't Christian. So
time out.
Go on.
I just want to ask, are you going to say something about the 335?
Yep.
Dude.
Yes, of course I am.
I'm right there with you. Okay, continue.
Of course I am. So, my introduction to Jonathan Gorham was I was coming up to a gig that I was not playing, but Kogan was playing.
Okay.
It was at a church in Midwest City, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I walked up backstage, and I saw, but behind stage, the AC30 that I see in front of me.
Yes. That is now mine, John. You'll never get it back. Sorry.
You never get it back no matter
Maybe
what
your
you do.
son would get it back. Never.
That's a different story. It's going to be in your will. Like, yeah. And he was playing a Telecaster.
Oh, the black one.
The black one with the humbucker and
real humbucker, not the wide range. Like
no,
straight
real
up.
deal.
Yeah.
And I heard it, and most importantly, I felt it in my chest because it was not quiet. And I was like, whoa, that sounds good. It sounds so good. That was the first time I met John. We had many.
Oh, that was the first time you met?
First time I met John.
Oh, wow.
It was through his Telecaster. The next time I met him was probably in a different situation. But regardless, I remember I sent him a text like, "Hey, are you going to sell your 335?" And he texted me back and he said, "Yeah, I just sold it to Guitar Center."
Oh, no.
And so I did the math in my brain space. And I knew that they probably offered him like $435 for it.
Maybe.
It was black. This was not
Black on black on black.
Yeah, this was not a satin series. It was not a studio series. It was a legitimate, full-on Gibson ES 335.
Memphis black.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had a guitar that was equivalent to the word sultry. Let me try one more time. Sultry. Sultry. No. That, I mean, black on black on black on black.
Gorgeous.
Dots. And he sold it to them for basically $600. And
I'm still mad at him about that.
Sometimes
I would have bought that from him.
Sometimes I sit up at night and I think, why did you do that? Why, John Graham? Why?
Oh.
Sorry.
At least we got the HC30 though.
At least. So here's what also bums me out is what if that amp had gone to Joe Schmo?
Oh man.
First name Joe Schmo, last name wouldn't appreciate it.
Joe Schmo wouldn't appreciate it.
Hi there, I'm Joe Schmo, wouldn't appreciate it.
Oh, dude. Yeah. That thing.
I've sold many dollars worth of gear to that guy when it was the 29th day of the month.
Oh, man. That's like a whole episode we could do. What'd you sell to pay the rent?
That would be a board game that we would write, and we would get some friends on it.
So my dream rig, was always an AC30, which I have now. Thank you, John. And a Fender Jaguar, which I don't have. And I think, honestly, now I'm more inclined to get a Jazzmaster.
Right.
Just because of the scale length. But also, have you seen pictures of those Jazzmasters with matching headstocks?
No. Show me.
A white Jaguar, which a matching white headstock,
yes.
or a black Jazzmaster, or seafoam green, or whatever.
Seafoam is my weakness.
Oh, they look so cool. I'm typing in Google right now, Jazzmaster with matching headstock.
Yes.
Google images. Ooh, the Fiesta red one looks awesome.
What is that amp? Is that a blonde? That's a blonde bassman.
Ooh,
my God,
old school. I'm still. We could do a whole episode about amps that we're mad the other one didn't buy, and for me, it would be that Fender concert amp that you didn't buy from old Blue Music. I'm still in the market for one of those. What were those? Early 60s, I think, is the brown. That's the brown Tolex.
Really early 60s.
Yeah.
Because that was pre-blackface.
Pre-blackface, yeah.
We went
between Tweed and blackface.
Yeah. We went on a trip, me and Kogan and a couple of our good friends, to Fayetteville. And we stopped at Blue Moon Music. Back when you could just walk into there.
R.I.P. Blue Moon Music.
Rest in peace.
Is it still a shop?
It's a shop, but it's appointment only. And according to them, I asked them, I can't tell you what's actually happening, but I asked them what was happening. And they said they were trying to appeal more to the current market.
What was the gear that you think would have inspired you to play as a kid? What did you want to see under the tree?
I will tell you, I had 3 guitars.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I only had one.
No,
Jaguar.
I had three guitars. Two are within the same sisterhood, but 3 guitars and a couple of amplifiers. But here are the guitars. I imagined in 2004 that if I had a Gibson Les Paul Classic, see, this was me.
Oh.
This was me both being realistic and totally dreaming.
Yeah.
And I'm saying the wine red finish with that.
Interesting. You
with
wanted
that-
the wine red?
I wanted the wine red so bad with that wood grain, with the cream binding, with those inlays that were kind of green but were kind of pearloid. The Les Paul Classic could not be beaten in my book. Mm-hmm. At the time, I thought, ooh, hotter pickups must be heavier sound.
Yes, sir.
I've learned better. Number 2,
Okay.
Gold Top Les Paul Deluxe.
Yes.
The mini humbuckers.
Oh, I've always wanted one of those.
I have spent so much time on Craigslist just scouring for Les Paul Deluxes.
Yeah. They're hard to come by.
Yeah, and also, here's the weird thing. Knowing in my head, based on YouTube, that I actually don't prefer their sound. I have this weird attachment to them because of my childhood.
Yeah.
The gold top, especially a 70s gold top where most of where your arm would rest would be green.
It's just patinaed, yeah.
This patina, just like nasty green, gold, worn down.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I love
almost
that.
like rust on iron. Number 3.
Oh, boy. I can't wait for this one. Should I do a drum roll?
Yeah.
Insert drum roll here.
Angus Young signature
Of
61
course.
reissue
Of course.
SG.
Oh, yes.
The entire, not a joke, the entire reason I wanted to ever pick up a guitar in the first place was because of this right here. Down now now. Down now now. Down now now. Down now now. Down now. Down now now. Down now now. Down now now. Down now now. Down now. If Highway to Hell had not existed, I never would have even wanted to touch a guitar in my entire life. That look, the look of like the 5'2" Angus Young, who would shred his entire schoolboy outfit about 60 seconds onto coming on stage. SGs looked huge on him, right?
Oh, massive. They were as tall as he was.
They looked gigantic. He looked like, no offense, Angus, but he looked like a child.
A schoolboy.
He looked like a schoolboy. He looked like a child playing a grown man's guitar. And that was just like, holy heck, that
Which
is
I play an
amazing.
SG and it's like a ukulele on me.
Yeah. Because you're like 6'9".
So those were your 3 guitars that were like, okay, this is if I
If
I
I
get
only
this-
got that going on, yeah.
this it'll be magic. What about amplifiers?
All right. Marshall. Period.
Naturally.
No, so there was
JCM insert number here.
Yeah, I mean, so when I was that age, the 800 was like that was the unicorn. Like, it was the mythical creature. I'm never going to come up with one.
Yeah.
But like a sort of adjacent friend of mine had a 900, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I just thought about, like, I think it's the AVT model from. It was
those were the ones that
was a
had,
modeling.
solid
Marshall.
state power tubes.
Yeah.
But preamps tubes. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
those.
and I just thought, like, well, tubes are not a big deal. But if it's Marshall and it's as big as a cabinet, then it has to be a good amplifier. You know?
No, totally.
I actually did not take advantage of the fact that I had a few friends with Fender Hot Rod DeVilles and Deluxes who would let me borrow them.
Yeah.
Because I know now just how they're fantastic.
Oh,
canvases.
incredible, yeah.
And you can build so much onto them. They're so forgiving too, you know. Whereas even a really good Marshall full tube amp, it's going to be like really present, mid-range.
It's a Marshall no matter what you do.
It's a Marshall no matter what. So I kind of took advantage of the fact that people were letting me borrow really good stuff, and I just didn't realize that it was good. My mind was always on, well, where's that 100-watt Marshall head? Like, that's all that's important.
So we put out an Instagram post about what did you want for Christmas as a kid, and Sean at Lollygagger Effects, maker of the Canalia,
Bring it.
he hit us up and he said a Univibe, which I'll be honest with you,
God.
I have no experience with a Univibe. I know what they sound like, and I know it sounds awesome. I thought it was a really interesting answer. Like, as a kid, I mean, I guess you're listening to a lot of Hendrix, yeah, like that sound.
Womp, 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 womp. Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool. What's the company that made Univibes? Do you know?
Dunlop, I think.
Dunlop Univibe. Okay.
Yeah. So that brings up this beautiful thing of, we actually haven't talked about pedals a whole lot yet.
No. Oh, well, that's the thing. When I was a kid, I was like,
I didn't know.
What's pedals?
So the only thing,
know.
the only thing I knew about pedals as a kid was wah-wah.
Dunlop Crybaby.
Yep. Somebody told me that I needed a tuner.
Oh, tuner
so I
pedal,
got one. And then it was, how many hours could you spend researching different models of the Tube Screamer? Because I spent a lot of the TS like 9X or whatever, the
like turbo,
like turbo
one or whatever it is.
Oh, dude. I borrowed one from a friend and I was just like, I'm done.
What?
Enjoy.
Do you ever wonder, why did people say I need a tuner pedal and I can't just buy a clip-on tuner and roll my volume off?
Well, I think it's because at the time they did not have the technology.
They weren't like good clip-on tuners.
No, because I remember, dude, that was trash.
I never had one until like a couple of years ago.
It was total trash. Up until seriously 2015, they were trash.
Oh, that's incredible.
Now that's not the case. The only thing,
Reverb has their own tuner pedals. They're like
like
$5
$8
or $8, yeah, whatever.
I remember
I buy them for my students.
Yeah.
They're cheap.
I played a gig. I was playing bass in a pretty bass heavy environment.
Come on.
And I'm used to having a tuner pedal where you'd sit and the sound stops.
Oh, chance.
Luckily, the song was in G. So when out of nowhere I hit the high G string, it was like, Jesus is good and Jesus is burn. Luckily, at least I was in key.
Oh my god!
But I had that moment where the entire band went insular and just looked right at me and was trying to not laugh. And I was just like, I'm gonna roll the bass or the volume off of this bass.
That's incredible.
Bing, 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 bing.
I'm sure a lot of people who listen to Rotator also listen to Tone Mob, the Tone Mob.
All right.
And they hit us up and said, always wanted a white Les Paul custom. Had to wait until I was all grown up, but it happened. Man, what a great story. getting the guitar
It
that you always
happens.
dreamed about.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I've never I was never really a big Les Paul guy or Gibson guy until probably 6 or 7 years ago. And now, ever since I got that SG, I'm like, dude, I love SGs.
Yeah.
But, man, a white Les Paul, that says something. That's a statement. That's like, hey,
Yeah.
we're about to get down to business.
The key term here is alpine white.
Alpine, yeah.
I used to study the finishes of Gibsons. Alpine white with gold hardware. I had one. I had a Les Paul Studio.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It ended up being from a weird year where they were like chambered,
Yeah.
and it was kind of
Not the
weird.
same sound.
Not the same. It was cool. It was really cool sounding, but I was able to kind of trade. I traded that Les Paul for a Fender Supersonic
Oh, I love that.
that I traded
amp is
for
so sick.
a 1964 Blackface Fender Bandmaster.
That's right.
And I would say that I won.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, a 64 Bandmaster sounds better than any Les Paul Studio ever made, period. Like, that's just...
Yeah. We could have a whole other episode about studios and their place and
I
and
do
the whole
love...
scene.
So the Les Paul Customs are... That denotes the binding, right? Or do they all have binding on them?
So it depends. Some of them have 3 pickups, binding, different shaped inlays.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's kind of dependent on the year.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Because essentially there were, and maybe the internet will tell me I'm wrong, but there were some customs that were the essential equivalents of like a Black Beauty, but were in other finishes.
A different finish, not black. Yeah. So the White Beauty, which would be white, gold hardware, 3 pickups, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I think I would still love to hear some more Christmas wishes from childhood from all of our listeners out there in Rotator, and it has been a wonderful year doing this podcast for you all, and I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I can't wait to see what the next year holds for me and for Chance and for us here at Rotator and for all of you listeners. I would say Merry Christmas. I would say I hope you get everything that you want. And I would say to all of us, may the music guide our way. Merry Christmas from all of us, aka me and Chance, just the two of us, here at Rotator, the pedal party. I'm Kogan.
I'm Chance.
And this is Rotator.
I don't feel like this should be.
Should that be the ending? I don't know. When you started playing, I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. I'm going to wrap it up. This is the end.
No. This should be the ending. I don't feel like this should be what people think I'm capable of. Okay.
I'm Kogan.
I'm Chance.
And this is
Rotator, the jingle party.
The jingle party.
Ho, ho, ho.